All right. It's like 30 seconds after the previous one of these. We're doing sort of a catalog of ships type thing for the early part of this story that we're telling of the sack of the city of Thebe, of Eëtion's Thebe. And the idea being that Eëtion is the king of the city, but under his command are various princes who are commanding different contingents. And so we told of the contingent that Eëtion has of his royal guard, of the Amazons that came with Queen Tecmessa. And then I didn't actually tell about the army that was with Alcon, which is the first of the sons of Eëtion that I had invented. So I guess let's start with him. And then for full disclosure, I had come up with an idea, basically a name and one trait, which you'll probably know what trait, of the next son before this this episode, but that's all. I don't have any other information about that. So here we go. And with Alcon came a force of 150 doughty fighters from the inner parts of the city. Those farmers and those men who tilled the land, they all looked up to Alcon as their chief. And he found that these were the ones who followed him most readily, as he could speak in the terms that they understood, and that he saw them day after day. So Eëtion trusted to his son Alcon the command of these men who came from the fringes of the city. They were armed with sickles and with axes, those men who chopped the trees and who tilled the earth and who cut the stalks. They took to the tools of their trade, but doughty fighters were they, though they protected but their humble abodes. They protected them with the fierce fury of ones who needed to fend for their families and their livelihoods. Thus, these 150 lightly armed soldiers, fierce in courage, were with Alcon, that son of Eëtion. And under Eëtion was that brave fighter, KERAMEIKOS, who had with him his namesake, that fearsome mask of ceramic clay that attached to his helmet and gave him the look of some evil beast or demon when he wore it in battle. His helmet, with its fierce three-crested plumes coming from each side, had cheek pieces affixed with this ceramic piece on top. And when it was in place, none could look at him or see the expression on his face. He wore at all times a ceramic mask, for underneath no man knew, but it was rumored among the people of the city that some great affliction had scoured his face and horribly disfigured him. No one, not even many of those closest to him, except for his father and mother, knew what lay under that fearsome mask. He was a doughty fighter, great and huge he was, a specialist in the two-edged sword, and with that great circular shield, he went out from city walls and sought out fights and combat. He would lead his crack force of Cilicians out into the ranged field far to the east, winning great glory for himself and his city, and winning new lands for King Eëtion, who did not seek to conquer, but to protect the city and to trade. And thus did KERAMEIKOS lead his force of 200 doughty Cilicians who were well versed in the ways of dread Ares. They had on a great leather-thonged armor that could turn the blade of many of the doughtiest fighters, though they were so skilled in the ways of war that not many blades had the chance to touch that armor. Such was their speed in combat. This KERAMEIKOS took with him his two-edged sword, and his circular shield, and his fearsome mask, and on his chest he had the plate with a square front. No other metal touched his midsection, but one small targe on his front section, and under this a tunic, light and movable. He and his 200 men stood at the ready, and with them were the other brothers, and those sons of Eëtion. All right, yeah, that was my idea that this guy would be called KERAMEIKOS, which, I don't know, I just thought it was a cool name and concept for a character. It's what they call the part in Athens that I went to where a lot of the pottery was made, because it means the ceramic, district or whatever. And so he wears like a ceramic mask, I guess. I don't think they really had or at least if they did, they haven't found any, as far as I know, any pottery that would date back to the time of Troy, like 1200 BC-ish. Maybe they did, but I figure that they probably had the means for it. They didn't paint it necessarily, but I think they would have had earthenware stuff. And so I had the idea that he wore this mask like Cesare Borgia or something, where nobody really saw his face. I thought it was just a cool idea. And so he's like a warlike captain, I guess, who would lead the forces out of the city. I gave him a piece of armor like the Etruscans would wear, the like square sort of thing that's strapped to your chest with a tunic underneath. And so it is making it a little bit easier to keep track of these guys, because I had just named 6 guys in the middle of an episode last time. And, how are you going to remember the names you just come up with off the top of your head? But with this, it seems like it'll probably be a little easier to remember. Like, for example, Eëtion is a character that, he's established as the king of Thebes. But Tecmessa, she is a character from, at least in my stuff that I've read, she's in Post-Homerica, which I narrated. She's a slave of Ajax, the Telamonian Ajax. And she has speaking lines right at the funeral of Ajax, but there's not like a lot of stuff with her. And I basically just like appropriated her character name to use for this. And maybe she'll tie back into being the same Tecmessa later, but I don't know. But we remembered her throughout this whole thing, even though she's an invented character for my purposes. And then Alcon is entirely invented, because I don't even think that's a Greek name. I just made it up off the top of my head. But every episode I've, mostly remembered that name and, the general outline sketch of his character. And hopefully we'll remember KERAMEIKOS going forward as well. But I think slowing it down and trying to really just give everybody some kind of a personality or traits to remember them by is making it easier to remember their names, just because there's something to connect it to. So we'll keep going with that. Again, it's pretty rough, and there's not a lot of good details with it, but it's a first draft, so we'll keep trying.